Everybody, this is Perch. Let's talk about untapped potential. Here's a mail we've got here. It says this will be a long one. Believe it or not, it's not that long. Or at least there's people who've written like the one guy wrote 18 pages of a mail. It was good, and I feel like I want to read it or do something with it. It just there'll be a I mean it's a long ass mail. I don't know I don't know what to do with it. Anyway, let's get to this one. This one's a good one. It says, it seems to me that Marvel and DC lack any imaginative skills or thinking in order to make their businesses do more. For example, they refuse to modernize their business by moving more into digital. They don't really promote their comics. Instead, they act like comics are just a little cottage industry that is closed off to a small handful of people. Despite their characters in the mass consciousness, their comic sales do not reflect that. As a result, there's not enough money in comics, and since there isn't enough money in comics, it feeds back into the thinking of these companies. If these companies could be more serious with their comics, they could bring in respectable numbers. If Demon Slayer, an average shonen with no complex plots, can sell millions, so can some of DC and Marvel comics. Okay, I know it's a long mail, but I'll interrupt myself here. This is absolutely correct, and I'm sorry if this is pisses off all the weebs and manga fans. A lot of the manga that's popular, I like My Hero Academia. I think it's a great series. It's a fun superhero story. It's definitely what the X-Men were in the 80s. It's good stuff. It's also super simple. Demon Slayer, which sold tons, is even more simple. Demon Slayer is not a complex story. By any stretch of the imagination, it is a ridiculously simplistic manga. It is paper thin in terms of plot. Absolutely. Still sells really well. So what are you going to do? But a lot of people will hold up manga sometimes like this is the most greatest classic storytelling in the history of comic. No, not really. A lot of it is super, super basic. But it plays to its audience. It hits the notes well, and it does a good job. There you have it. All right, back to Mel. It says, when it comes to the comics themselves, it seems like the gimmick of multiverse resets and Crisis. Crisis. That should be the next crisis. Crisis. DC. That was what Dark Crisis felt like. Next one could be Crisis. That sounds really good. Or crossover events that seem to dominate today's storytelling, especially in DC. I don't know why this is the case, but it's annoying. Long gone are the days of long-form storytelling. Now are the days of cheap, meaningless events. It's because they sell better. It would be nice to have 3 or maybe even 5 years run on a comic with competent writing and consistent art. There should be an effort to keep things consistent inside the comics. For example, if Hal Jordan is away fighting Sinestro, I don't expect him to be in a Justice League book that same month. Yeah, all very true. By the way, I made that quick aside because they sell better. To be clear, to clarify, they sell better than the long form, storytelling today. They sell, of course, much, much worse than they did, decades ago. But there you have it. Another thing is the art. I feel comics can have things like splash pages done by different artists and such instead of gimmicks of variant covers or make the comics black and white. I personally prefer this because it looks better, which could potentially save money. There are just some ideas in my head that I think could help the industry. Another thing is the villains. Let's look at DC. They have the Joker, Superboy Prime, Darkseid, Lex Luthor, etc. Oh, it reminds me, I haven't seen Superboy Prime in a couple of years, so it's about time to have another Crisis event with him. They need to get that going. These characters used to generate sales. Make a Luthor book or a Superboy Prime miniseries and market it. Look at the Joker movie and how well it did. I believe this can be replicated in the comics. The use of big bad villains in comics should be handled better because I believe they are underused and underdeveloped. Sure, no doubt about it. In fact, look at the Sinestro Corps War as a good example of actually using these big bads as and not resetting the universe. We had Superboy Prime, Cyborg Superman, Anti-Monitor, and Sinestro. Another major thing is having eras, pre-crisis, post-crisis, New 52, etc. I believe that these companies should not reset their universes constantly as they did in these past years, but instead reset them once every 15 to 25 years. This will force creators to be consistent and logical with making stories. Well, I mean, you have to have editors pushing that, but yeah. Overall, I just think the big two aren't serious and lack any vision when it comes to comics. The woke stuff is just a very small and insignificant aspect of this industry. It is the thing I mentioned above that lead to the subpar performance of the big two. If average, sometimes badly written manga can outsell you, it should not be extremely hard to come back at them, especially with decades of experience these companies have. Thank you. Okay, lot in there, a lot of truth in there. I mean, I do think the problem, and one reason to step away from the culture war is it is a distraction. It's a distraction from some really obvious problems in comics, like all this stuff: overuse of events, villains going nowhere, variant schemes, not really caring about the comic. Somebody gets the idea, let's put a comic in black and white, and everybody follows suit like a bunch of dumbass lemmings, and you get 15 of them all looking the same with very little, the anthology mess that we're in right now, where anthologies used to be used sparingly and would have actual significant stories, and now, they are vomiting out multiple anthologies every month, and nothing of significance happens, and they're all filler stories. These are all problems. These are bigger problems in many cases than a lot of the other stuff that gets played out. The kind of heartbreaking part you mentioned at the beginning, which is true, and that's it becomes a vicious circle. You don't put a lot of care and effort into comics. You kind of disregard it. You lean too heavily on the same gimmicks over and over and over and over again. You get pretty lazy and sloppy with your creative teams and your maintaining of continuity and stories and everything else. You don't take advantage of really obvious sales opportunities when they fall into your lap, and as a result, you make less money. And when you make less money, then your corporate overlords, your WB, your Disney, even your upper management of Marvel and DC go, well, I guess comics are kind of small. I mean, yeah, they're small when you make them small. Comics don't have to be small. There's no reason that it should be this way. It's pretty easy to actually kind of capture this, and especially when you have the backdraft right now of billion-dollar movies. It's natural advertising for you. It's screwed up that now the comics have to kind of rely on the movies to make things happen, but the movies are your advertising. You couldn't figure it out yourselves. Well, now there's your ads, and you're still finding a way to seize defeat from the jaws of victory. I mean, it's bizarre. It's truly, truly bizarre. It is frustrating. I'm with you. Ma Crisis. DC presents Ma Crisis. It shouldn't be. It hurts. It hurts to laugh. Is what happens there. I don't know. It's apathy, I guess, but it is. You don't go in. You don't take advantage of obvious opportunities. You make less money. The people in charge go, see, we always knew you couldn't make more money. They then lower rates and do less. You make even less money. Somebody turns around and says, see, I knew these things were not going to make much money. I mean, again, you go around and around in a circle. And unlike a Post Malone song about getting some tail, this one is more pathetic because it's just comics. It's something that should be doing better. I don't know. One of the thought processes I've had lately, and I guess I'll leave it at this. I'll ask you this: is comics should be doing better. I think most people would agree with that, no matter what side of the kind of ideological chasm you're on. Comics should be doing better, but it finds a way not to. And at this point, I know that a lot of people have said they want the big reset to happen. They want comics to die so it could be rebuilt. Unfortunately, if something is weak and dies, I think a lot of people are banking on this idea that it will. I think people are banking on this idea that if it dies, then it will, be reborn better. That the people will step in and go, all right, now we're going to fix it and do it right. But that rarely happens. Generally, when stuff dies from apathy or lack of attention, it just dies. Nobody comes leaping in there to go, hey, let's do it right this time. That's one of the reasons why it'd be far better for comics to improve and get better than to completely blow up. Having things completely blow up and this idea that could be rebuilt from the ashes tends to be a pretty immature, non-business way of thinking. It sounds good in movies. It sounds good in memes. It doesn't actually work out that way much in real life. So, yeah, it'd be better if things got better. I mean, are we really at a place, I guess, where, if people just believe, we're down to the you need to just believe stage of comics. And if people will do that and actually, wake up every day and try and do the best they can, that's the solution. I mean, really? Is that, I don't know, maybe that's where we're at. Oh well. Anyway, thank you very much for the mail and thanks for listening.